Ooh wee, look what that money make a bitch do.
Welcome to part one of my two-part video essay series analyzing the rhetorical moves and impact of college student movements and experiences in the United States. For this project, I'm looking specifically at the hashtag NotAgainSU movement started at Syracuse University in New York in 2019. This video will be split into two parts. Part one, an overall history of racist incidents at colleges and universities in America, and part two, an overall history of hashtag NotAgainSU from 2019 to 2021. Before we look specifically at hashtag NotAgainSU, let's take a look at the history of student protests at American universities. If you want to skip straight to the hashtag NotAgainSU movement, here's the timestamp. Enjoy! What would you do for money? How far are you willing to go to live a lavish lifestyle? Well, student activists with the hashtag NotAgainSU movement posed those same questions to the administrators at Syracuse University. Before we continue, let's watch a clip of an in-person student-led and organized protest at Syracuse University during the beginning days of hashtag NotAgainSU. Pay close attention to their signs and their words.
That's right. So right before the break, the DA of Syracuse released a statement in an interview saying that he was basically waiting for us to lose motivation, lose our fire, and come back after break having learned a lesson. I don't know what he meant because I'm pretty sure we're still going to be here after the break and we're still here after Thanksgiving break. That's just it.
I'm not an animal, I'm a human being, I am a person. That is disturbing. So it's not okay, and that's exactly why I want to say, bye Kent. Bye Bobby. Bye Bobby. Bye John. Bye John. And goodbye Dolan. Bye Dolan. Because you cannot carry out the change that we need, because this is literally the violence you're enacting after 2 weeks of this nonsense. You're doing it to your own students. Your own students.
I know that some of them may be here, so just making sure that we get them, read them, and then get response in a timely manner. Yeah, it's all good.
I'll be happy to pass them along.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you for your advocacy.
For context, this was a protest in response to Syracuse administrators' inaction to meet students' demands. You can take a moment to scan this QR code and go through them. Keep these demands and the administrators named in the video in the back of your head. We'll come back to that in part two of this video. The NotAgainSU movement was born after 13 racist and anti-Semitic incidents occurred on Syracuse's campus without any intervention or condemnation from administration. From November 7th to November 21st, 2019, over 13 cases of racial incidents occurred on Syracuse's campus. Students on campus became dissatisfied with Syracuse's history of dealing with racist incidents on campus with minimal intervention or community denouncement. In November 2019, Black student activists and their allies decided to seek justice and accountability for themselves and make history as one of the most influential student movements of the 2010s. I want to take another moment to just listen to the protests of these students and hear their joy as well as their revolution.
Careful.
Before we hop into the specifics behind the movement, it's important we understand the history of student protests. To be clear, the university has always been a place for protest. In the 1630s, during the British colonization of Northern America, British colonists established the first universities in what would be the United States. Students of the time were expected to be white, aristocratic men who studied religion, philosophy, and law. Professors were also aristocratic and well-off white men with long histories of hosting seminars and speaking in community, where they were tasked with teaching a rigorous liberal education with subjects like classical languages, Aristotle teachings, ethics, metaphysics, and science. It was common for students and professors to come from similar backgrounds. However, they often differed on behavioral and academic expectations. Records show decades full of rebellion from students in 1776 to 1820, 1930 to 1975, and newer protests post-1990. These protests were about a wide selection of topics, including, but not limited to, tuition rates, deaths on campus, gender, and racial integration. For centuries, students' rebellion against the university shaped the expectations, needs, and courses of higher education. Unfortunately, student voices and perspectives continue to be one of the least researched and recorded areas of academia. Bradley et al. Exclaimed in 2015 that student voices and experiences are a necessary but so far underrepresented component in how we account for the progress of undergraduate writing majors and concentrations. Using hashtag NotAgainSU as an example, I'm expanding that statement to say that a large portion of undergraduate majors in public institutions in America are underrepresented and undervalued. In Black women's liberatory pedagogies, pedagogy is defined as action, a political endeavor aimed at decolonizing and redefining the ways we think about teaching, learning, and praxis. Traditionally, pedagogy is referred to as the art or science of teaching and tends to encompass instructional analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation of student learning. However, the authors implore that pedagogy and education do not traditionally include holistic approaches to teaching and students. But what if it did? What if student voice came first? What if students were able to be paid livable wages to be a part of university administration? Let's take another moment to listen to the students' experiences in the form of a news story done by Ricky Sayer of Citrus TV.
In the university's newest building comes campus's latest protest in what comes in the fallout of another racially charged incident on campus.
We don't want to have to be here, so because we're doing it now, this can be the last time.
Students arriving around 10 to the Barnes Center, getting the word out on social media.
Eli, come to Barnes. We here today. Y'all got signs? Yeah, the signs.
They want change from this university in the wake of racist graffiti found in Day Hall. Chief Diversity Officer Heath Alford in attendance at one point, sitting down to talk with the protesters. Dean of Students Marianne Thompson also talking to students, telling them that this event is thoughtful and incredible.
And we wanted to create space in order to give students a platform to speak up in a way that is productive and conducive to change.
For protesters, this is about more than how the university handled this specific incident. It's about a culture on campus where marginalized communities feel unsafe.
Things like this happen, racial slurs are being written on walls, and people are, pistol whipping people at parties and yelling racial slurs at them. It really makes us feel like we don't belong.
Throughout the day, protesters still studying, with finals approaching, students doing their work while demanding change.
Now, after reading the demands and hearing a portion of the students' protests, if you were an administrator, what would you do? When hearing things like, we don't want to be here, so we're doing this now so we don't have to do it again, and it makes us feel like we don't belong, what actions would you take to make these students feel safe? Do you believe that education administrators have the best interest in mind for the campus community? Do you think educational procedures should be centered around the needs of students and teachers? These are some of the questions that I'm hoping to get folks to answer. Folks specifically meaning Syracuse administrators, but really all education administrators who prioritize their own interests over the betterment of their most vulnerable student populations. I'm creating this video partially for the completion of my doctoral degree, but also because I'm also a student activist and educator. My studies and my lived experience as a Black queer woman in P through 12 educations has brought me to many conclusions when it comes to the knowledge production system. but it can all be summed up in one sentence. The real revolution needs to happen in the administrative offices. Administrators, specifically at universities in America and worldwide, need to listen to their communities and follow demands of the students and staff they aim to advocate for. Power dynamics between educators, students, staff, administrators, and campus community members need to shift for the future of higher education in America. Students need to be an active participant in their own learning. Campus-based activism from the earliest historical accounts has reflected grievances based in the political dynamics of a nation. Activism has been a significant tactic for reform of the American higher education system since colonial times. Students advocated for religious freedom on campus, ousted presidents, and boycotted British goods. Significantly, white students have always engaged in racial violence against black students. From abolitionists being targeted for anti-slavery sentiments during the antebellum period, to cross burnings during the civil rights era, to dorm defacing and cyber attacks of the modern collegiate era, activism has always been there. As Cassie L. Barnhart states, campuses should pay careful attention to displays of activism because they serve as a sort of flashing red light, denoting that the campus should stop, take notice, and navigate the situation with acute attention, deliberate discourse, and reflection on its institutionalized values and practices. University leaders should be careful not to simply mimic the response of other campuses, but choose an approach that is compatible with the issues, as well as with the organization's resources and values. From Chapter 1 of Student Activism in the Academy, Its Struggles and Promise. I'm looking specifically at the Not Again SU movement because it is a Black student-led and created movement. It held administrators responsible for their inaction and used social media as well as in-person protests to bring attention to their cause. I will be using the Not Again SU Twitter page, YouTube videos, news articles, and more to preface this timeline. I want to use as much of the students' words as possible. As the students said themselves, #NotAgainSU, a Black student-led movement, believes transparency from administration is necessary. The safety of students on this campus, specifically the safety of underrepresented and underserved students, is paramount. Now please enjoy. Not Again SU.
Look what that money make a bitch do.
Now, let's talk about some background history to our campus in question, Syracuse University. Sam Edelstein wrote in 2004 about Syracuse's long history with racism on and around campus. He reported on attacks against Black people, Latinx, Jewish, Asian, and gay students in the 70s. In 1999, an Asian student was attacked at a nearby Denny's. He spoke to student Michael Camp, a senior biochemistry major and the historian for the African American Male Congress at the time. Camp reported the same "just forget about it" treatment and response in 2004, just as the Not Again SU students did in 2019. There's always work to be done because there are always issues coming up, such as blackface. People made it seem big when it happened, but there were no consequences. Nothing came out of it. It just happened again. It will keep going and keep happening. Nothing is being taken care of. Michael Camp, 2004. In November 2019, 13 racial incidents occurring within 13 days leading up to the inception of Not Again SU. These incidents included fraternity members graffitiing racist remarks on several dormitory halls and bathrooms on campus, students yelling racial epithets at other students, hateful emails being sent to targeted members on campus, and students receiving a racist manifesto posted to an online forum but then shortly deleted. These incidents were targeted towards Jewish, Asian, and Black students specifically. In the days leading up to the announcement of the #NotAgainSU movement, students reported these racial incidents to campus police, administrators, and other influential members of the campus community. The movement was beginning to form as a direct response to how Syracuse University, quote unquote, handled these over 13 cases. Syracuse University officials had waited 4 days before alerting the student body to the racial incidents and chose not to find or reprimand the students involved. In the days following, the Juvenile Urban Multicultural Program organized a forum of more than 100 students gathered on campus to discuss the initial incidents of racist graffiti in dorm halls and talked about how Syracuse University treats its Black students. The conversation continued into a group chat, which was composed of the students who went on to start #NotAgainSU. Here is a quick breakdown of incidents by date and time. On November 14th, the first tweet was made on the Not Again SU page with these two graphics. It contained the mission statement for the movement. #NotAgainSU, a Black student-led movement, believes transparency from the administration is necessary. The safety of students on this campus, specifically the safety of underrepresented and underserved students, is paramount. #NotAgainSU stands in solidarity with all groups and communities that identify with and for the movement. 2. Following their first tweet was this retweet from November 13th. On November 7th, 2019, a hate crime occurred in Day Hall. This most recent incident in Day Hall serves as a catalyst for actions currently being taken, as this incident is just one of many that have occurred on campus in recent years. #NotAgainSU, with a graphic of a fist saying there's a sit-in being held in Barnes Hall. I was not able to find the other two parts of this original tweet. 3. The next day, November 14th, the chancellor was caught pitching to alumni and intentionally avoiding student body as pictured here. Another tweet explaining that there are currently teach-ins happening for everyone present at the Barnes Center. We would like to acknowledge and appreciate our professors and faculty admins who decided to show up for this to take place. If you aren't here, you should be. #NotAgainSU was tweeted right after. 4. On November 15th, or day 3 of the movement, the students began calling for other orgs to support and show solidarity after another racial incident occurs on campus. Racist graffiti targeted at Asian students on the 3rd floor of Day Hall, the same place where racist graffiti was discovered on November 7th. Sleep-ins at Barnes Hall began as international student unrest and solidarity amongst other groups ramps up. The following text thread explaining events so far was retweeted. #Humans of the movement began, and the debut of the Daily Orange article. 5. November 16th was yet another major day. Reports of racist graffiti, verbal harassment against Black students, hate-filled emails sent to targeted students, and another incident of a Black student getting called the N-word while walking on campus. Talk about a busy day at school. Senator Rachel May announces her visit to come sit in with students while the baseball team asks students to #unpack the dome. A protest and open mic was scheduled to occur in substitution to the baseball game. 6. Officers remove #NotAgainSU posters around campus on November 17th. Students began to hold those supporting basketball games during the occupation accountable via social media as being complicit in promoting the racist events on campus. The official GoFundMe for #NotAgainSU got up and running. 2 notable articles were published, one in the New York Times and another in Jerk Mag. Another Senator Gillibrand, endorses #NotAgainSU. All fraternal activities became suspended for the rest of the semester while the sleeping continued on. And #NotAgainSU pressures Chancellor Kent to respond to the list of demands that they create. Number 7. On November 18th, refocusing back on the culture of the university, #NotAgainSU movement releases their own timeline of events. They also receive a live feature with Anderson Cooper on CNN, AJ+, CBS New York, and score a viral tweet from @ZeliImani. 8. On November 19th, students from the movement send a call to end all classes due to increased threats against student protesters. New York Governor Cuomo calls out Chancellor and sends intervention to quell protests, while Senator Pete Harkman and Gabrielle Union continue to give social media attention to #NotAgainSU. Number 9. November 20th. 7 days in for the Barnes occupation. Media guidelines released via Twitter for students being approached by reporters. Students request no bags allowed in space, and they host a community town hall. Number 10. November 21st. The students sent a direct response to Chancellor Kent, while Color of Change and Afropunk endorsed the students' effort. 11. November 22nd. Students rereading demands that were not met after a release of written response. Protesters take the streets to express their dissent. On November 23rd, hashtag NotAgainSU was on CNN, followed by a tweet on November 28th where they say thank you to their supporters. On December 2nd, we have the snowstorm incident. The snowstorm is a hoax, but our lack of safety isn't. Nice try, Kent. The students were insinuating that the snowstorm heading towards Syracuse University and students being asked to leave campus was a hoax, imploring that there is more discussion to be had and that several administrators needed to resign. December 3rd, the general body video released in 2014 detailing similar stalling tactics used by the university in 2019 to stop movements. December 4th, walkout announcement for December 5th, where hashtag NotAgainSU students plan to hand deliver letters of resignation to Chancellor Silverroad and other Syracuse University leaders. The walkout is planned for 1 p.m. They also hosted an IG Live question and answer. December 5th, the walkout happens with many obstacles, including administration closing buildings, removing posters, and even canceling class. December 6th, a statement is released from the students. Hashtag NotAgainSU would like to directly respond to the statement made by Sarah Scalise, Associate Vice President of University Communications, to the Daily Orange. We stated that we met with Chancellor Savad, but we did not reach an agreement on revisions. Read our full response. Number 7. They made their demands public thanks to the help of the Syracuse Library on December 7th. On December 14th, a Twitter thread was created of police dismissing a stalking and flashing victim on campus. On December 18th, students highlighted the hate crimes happening on campus while also refocusing language of the movement with new flyers and photos. And all of that happened in one semester. When we take a look back at the enormous amount of work these students put in, we can see the Black digital rhetorical strategies employed here: rhetorical reclamation and Black digital activisms. As Louis Mirage states in Black or Right, rhetorical reclamation offers means by which those Black bodies might creatively invert third-person consciousness to make Black agency within those conditions. When hashtag NotAgainSU reuses the Syracuse colors, the official fonts, tags official university offices, and use the administration's words to further their mission, they invert the Syracuse administration's words and put them in their own perspective to exact agency for themselves. Bringing attention to Black experience through oral or digital means is a Black feminist tactic called signifying. Black digital activism stem from a tradition of using signifiers like hashtagging to signify Black movements, such as hashtag NotAgainSU, hashtag Black Lives Matter, hashtag George Floyd, and hashtag Say Your Name. These hashtag NotAgainSU students who were organizing to protest these schools' lack of response to dozens of racist, anti-Semitic, and homophobic incidents were met with institutional defensiveness in various forms. In the case of hashtag NotAgainSU, Syracuse University used its administration to threaten to suspend students, physically pulled and pushed students from occupied buildings, threatened graduate student faculty in solidarity, and used the student code of conduct to prove which students deserve safety and which deserve persecution. Despite every tactic to weaken their movement being employed against them, hashtag NotAgainSU successfully showcased the hypocrisy within the administrations of American universities to the world through social media platforms. In less than 2 weeks, they had garnered thousands of likes and national attention from sharing their experiences on campus. While the Syracuse administration boasted about maintaining safety on campus, hashtag NotAgainSU used rhetorical reclamation to signify the violence they were receiving from the campus community just from speaking the truth. This concludes the first portion of hashtag NotAgainSU. Please continue to support students directly by following their social media pages, donating to their GoFundMes, and advocating for undergraduate students as they see fit. Student voice is integral to the continuation of higher education. And in part 2, you'll see exactly what happens when students stand up for themselves.